Hi everyone. This is your video lecture on character and point of view for our short story unit. Just a reminder once again that you have a worksheet that goes along with this PowerPoint. The directions ask you to use a different color font. If you would like to use Notability, you may do that. Some of these are regular questions and some of them are fill in the blank. This worksheet is due prior to entering class tomorrow. So let's go ahead and get started. So there are two different meanings for the word character. The first meaning is the person in a work of fiction, and the second meaning is the characteristics of that person. So the first term that we're going to talk about is one that may be familiar to you, and that is the term protagonist. The protagonist is the central character or hero in a story. This character is usually the one with whom the audience tends to identify with. We are usually rooting for the protagonist. So if we think about the protagonist for the story of Little Red Riding Hood, the character that we tend to identify with, that we are rooting for, that is the main character in the story, is of course Little Red. If we are talking about the story of the necklace, the main character, we might not like her or identify with her as much, but the main character of that story that we are following is Madame Louisel, of course. The term antagonist stands for the principal character that is in opposition to the protagonist or the main character. Now, sometimes the antagonist is not a character, but something else, like a force of nature, some aspect of society, or an internal force within the protagonist. So what I mean by this is if I am in the middle of a thunderstorm and I am trying to get back to my house, but I'm having difficulty because of all the water, the antagonist working against me is the actual thunderstorm. So it doesn't always have to be a character. Now, if we're thinking about the antagonist in Little Red Riding Hood, obviously the thing that is working against Little Red the most and who is putting her in danger as well as her grandmother is the wolf. If we're talking about the necklace, the idea of the antagonist is a little bit more difficult. The necklace itself is working against Madame Louisel in that the necklace is lost and she needs to replace it. Now what I want you to think about for your worksheet as well as to discuss tomorrow in class is what other things are working towards Madame Louisel that could act as antagonists against her in the story of the necklace. Next, we're going to talk about characteristics of a person. Characterization is the information the author gives the reader about the characters themselves. So we think about things like their physical appearance, what they actually look like, the things that they say, the things that they think, their feelings, and their dreams. What he or she does or does not do tells us a little bit about the person, and what others say about him or her, and how others react to him or her. So, in order to kind of put this into a realistic way of thinking, when we meet someone new, when we have someone new come to our school or on one of our sports teams, we tend to sort of size them up based on their physical appearance, the things that they say or don't say, how they act, and how they interact with others, including yourself, and we begin to get an opinion about them. In stories, characters are convincing if they are consistent, meaning they have the same sort of thoughts and feelings throughout the story, if they are motivated, and if they are lifelike. So if characters resemble real people, they tend to be more convincing in the stories that we read. So characters can be identified as either individual, developing, or static, and these are terms that you may have heard before. An individual character can also be considered a round character, and these types of characters have many different sides to them, and they have very complex personalities. So we can look at them and they are much like us in that we have many sides to our own personality. Developing characters can also be referred to as dynamic characters. These characters also have many sides, but the important thing about developing your dynamic characters is that throughout the story, they go through some sort of change. The change may be for the better or it may be for the worse, but they do have some sort of change in their personality throughout the story. Static characters are also considered stereotypical characters. These characters have one or two characteristics that never change and are always emphasized. So, for example, if we have the cruel stepmother from the story of Cinderella, the only thing we ever really know about Cinderella's stepmother is that she's cruel, that she's mean, and that she does not treat Cinderella nicely. We don't really dive into her past or the reasons why she acts the way she does. We just always know her as the cruel, mean stepmother, and for that reason, she is considered a static character. The next thing we're going to talk about are different points of view. First person point of view is when the story is told by the protagonist or one of the characters who interacts closely with the protagonist or other characters. So in first person point of view, we use pronouns such as I, me, we. We see the story as we read it through that specific person's eyes, and we experience the things that they experience, and we only know what he or she knows or what he or she is feeling. The next point of view we're going to talk about is third person point of view. Now, third person point of view is different in that the narrator of the story is someone outside of the action, not a character writing the story. So the characters are referred to by name or by the pronouns he, she, and they. So in third person point of view, we can imagine that there is a narrator sitting outside of the bubble of the story, and they're sort of looking into the story and telling the story as they see it. Now, there are two different types of third person point of view. The first type is third person omniscient, and omniscient is the all-knowing point of view. This means that when that outside narrator is looking into the bubble, they know what every single person is feeling, thinking, they know their motives, and they have free access to all of their thoughts. Now, for the third person limited point of view, again, we have that outside narrator looking into the bubble of the story, and again, they are using pronouns such as they, she, he, and it. However, third person point of view is just what third person limited point of view is just what it sounds like. It is limited. We are limited in only knowing maybe what one character knows or what the author allows him or her to tell us. So we can see the thoughts and feelings of characters only if the author chooses to reveal them to us. And that is our presentation on character and point of view. Once again, remember to complete your character and point of view notes and to submit them to Schoology prior to class tomorrow. Have a great day.